The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media. Rick Jensen on 1150 AM, 1017 FM, WDEL.
Well, you know, for many, many, many years, I've been a client of Dan White and Associates, financial planners, who specialize in retirement income. So glad I am. We've already talked about it before, how we were watching the markets. Dan and I were talking about this, and Dan said, yeah, you know, if you're 30 years old, go ahead, hang in there, I suppose. But if you're twice that age, then maybe you ought to make some moves. And I did. And I went from 80% in the markets to 20%, and man, am I glad I did. So Dan calls in every Wednesday after the news at 1:30, except for when he doesn't, and has great advice for us and a lot of knowledge about a lot of things that are kind of annoying and boring, but man, we need to know about them, otherwise we can suffer. Dan, thanks for being on, pal. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Rick. Okay,
so we're talking about the Phillies and the interim manager, Rob Thompson. You get that right? And how well he's doing now since he has been the interim manager, right?
Yeah, apparently that was the problem all along. Joe Girardi just couldn't hit home runs in the ninth inning, you know. So,
there you go. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's disturbing because you know one of our main foils there is the Mets, and yet the Mets manager Buck Showalter says he likes this guy. He knew him coming up through the minor leagues. So of course we'll have the Phillies on later on today too. So I don't know if there's any more you wanted to say about the Phillies.
It'll be interesting to see. A lot of times teams do go on a run after a change is made. Hopefully it'll last. I mean, they were built to score a lot of runs, and they just weren't doing it, so somebody had to take the fall. So
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Dan White, Phillies analysis. There you go. Well, people don't realize you've actually managed the kind of like the amateur leagues of baseball. So.
Yeah, we managed some men's league for a while, and so I submitted my resume, but I haven't got a call yet.
Really? How long has it been? I mean, give them a couple of days.
Yeah, the phone's available, fellas.
I would love for you to be manager of the Phillies. Don't know, it means I guess we have free seat at the game or anything, but I could always mooch. What the heck? Right. So sure. A lot of folks listening have their own IRAs, and they're self-employed. Yes. And that means you have an IRA, and you like to max out on it. However, as Dan's about to point out, there are 5 ways that an excess IRA contribution can happen, and it can give you an unpleasant day.
Yes. It's a good thing to contribute to IRAs, but sometimes people, too much of a good thing, you know. There's 5 ways you can have an excess contribution. One, you can just flat out exceed the annual IRA contribution limit. For 2022, the limit is $6,000 a year for those under age 50, and $7,000. You get a $1,000 catch-up if you are age 50 or older. That may seem like an easy rule to follow, but it's amazing to me, especially even with Roth IRAs, which has the same limit. You know, people are like, "Can't I just take like $30,000 and throw it in a Roth?" And I'm like, "No, you can't." Yeah. You know that they always have these grandiose ideas, but no, there are rules that you have to follow. The second way you can have an excess contribution is not having enough earned income, and this is a more common occurrence. Is an IRA owner not having sufficient earned income or taxable compensation to fund an IRA? A lot of retirees, you know, they do their taxes and they find they owe money and they say, "Oh, I've got $50,000 in savings. I'll just throw $7,000 in an IRA and I'll reduce my tax liability." Well, you can't take it out of your savings. You can't. I mean, you can, but you have to have earned income. Somebody would have had to have paid you $7,000 in a year in order for you to make an IRA contribution. So it can't be your pension. It can't be Social Security. It can't be rental income, investment income. You have to have some type of earnings in order to make a contribution. With Roth IRAs, the third way you can make an excess contribution, your income could be too high. If you make too much money, you can't contribute to a Roth. So a lot of people might do it early in the year thinking, "Oh, I won't make that much money," and then maybe they get bonuses or that type of thing, and they may go over the limit and where they can't make a Roth contribution. So you might have an excess there. And then a fourth way is if you did a failed rollover. that you attempted to do a rollover, but it didn't work out. There's a variety of ways you can end up in this position. One possibility would be the violation of one of the rollover rules. If you mistakenly roll over after the 60-day rollover period has expired, or if you violate the once per year rollover rule, you're going to have an excess contribution, and there's penalties with that. So, and then the last way that we see this quite a bit is RMDs are not eligible for rollover. If you're older, you may be at greater risk of an excess contribution due to rollover mistakes. The required minimum distribution for the year cannot be rolled over. In fact, when we roll out 401k plans for people, if they are over the age of 72 or older, the company plan will have to send out the RMD before completing the rollover. And a lot of people, they want to, I'll take my RMD out and I'll roll it over. You can't do that. So that's an excess contribution. And if you have an excess contribution, you want to fix it, because they're going to penalize you every year that excess contribution remains in the IRA. So the good news, they can be corrected, often without penalty. For the right fix, make sure you talk to a knowledgeable tax or financial advisor.
Always good advice, Dan White. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. By the way, we're talking about the Roth income limits. I mean, I guess it's pretty easy to find out. Look it up. But I think it's like around 198,000 or a couple 100,000 or something like that. Yeah,
I can tell you the limits right here. Roth limits 198,000 for a joint married couple filing jointly, 125 for a single. So if you're over those limits, and then they have phase outs as well. So if it's like 198 to 208, if you're over 208, you're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, I understand how they want people's taxes, and they want people's taxes now, but that actually would encourage more and more people to save money if they just loosen that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dan White and Associates, find him online. He's one of the early adopters of the internet, so he put danwhiteandassociates.com. It's back in the 1800s they did that. That's why it's so long. And they got two offices, one in Middletown and one just over the line, Pennsylvania. Now, you also have the show on Sunday morning, 7 o'clock on WDEL. What's the topic this week?
Topic this week is, people get into a bind and they might want to access their retirement savings before age 59 and a half. It's usually a no-no, but there are several ways that you could do that without a penalty, and we're going to discuss the various ways you can access your retirement money before 59 and a half without paying that penalty.
Is the Biden administration going to maybe loosen the guidelines on these rules of taking money out of a 401k or an IRA? Like, let's say you want a couple $100 to fill up the family wagon. No?
I think you're going to be out of luck.
I think you're out of luck there. All right.
Very strict guidelines, but there are some exceptions, and we'll cover them on Sunday.
Thanks, Dan. Take care, buddy. All right, sir.
All right. Have a great day, Rick.
All right. Take care. Notice how he just totally avoided and evaded the whole political joke thing.